Yes, ma'am. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Today is Wednesday, May 20th, 2020. The time is approaching 1:01 p.m. This is a special meeting to select our successor to our recently deceased County Assessor, Rich Hauser. It is a special meeting as required by statute, and we'll go through and reference those statutes for you. And so I am officially calling this meeting to order. Attending are Commissioners Duncan, to my left, Commissioner Bill Brooks, and myself, Chairman Chris Fillios. And so what I'm going to do is go through some required statutes here. And the purpose of the meeting, again, is in fact to select our next assessor, and the individual selected will be sworn in today and will be presumed to assume his duties upon being sworn in. So that's the situation that confronts us. Before we proceed any further, I'd like to pay a small tribute to Rich Hauser, and it'll be very brief, but it is with great sadness and heavy hearts that he did pass away on May 3rd due to complications brought about as a result of the cancer. To describe Rich, I guess, his basically man of kindness, duty and benevolence. In all he did, he brought a level of integrity, energy, drive, and enthusiasm in everything he did. Most of all, he was a courageous and dedicated public servant. With his passing, he leaves behind a legacy that will long serve to inspire and empower us. And I should say that if we looked at all the groups within the county, I dare say that the assessor's office under Rich's leadership probably had among the highest esprit de corps. So that'll be something that whoever is chosen will have to aspire to. And so welcome again. So let's proceed. I'm going to read the relevant code, which is the procedures per Idaho Code 59-906. I don't want to burden you with all the verbiage, but it is appropriate that it be read. And so this deals with public officers in general, Chapter 9, resignations and vacancies. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Vacancies, except as provided in subsection 2 of this section, all vacancies in any county office of any of the several counties of the state, except that of the county commissioners, who shall be appointed by the governor, shall be filled by appointment by the county commissioners of the county in which the vacancy occurs, in accordance with the procedure prescribed below, until the next general election, when such vacancy shall be filled by election. The vacancy shall be filled as follows: the county central committee of the same political party, if any, of the former officer whose office is vacant shall submit a list of 3 nominations to the Board of County Commissioners within 15 days from the day of the office is vacated. The Board of County Commissioners shall fill the vacancy by appointment from the submitted list within 15 days. Should no appointment be made within 15 days, the County Central Committee of the political party submitting the nominations shall designate one of the 3 nominees to fill the vacancy. The person selected shall be a person who possesses the same qualifications at the time of his appointment as those provided by law for election to the office. Upon failure of the committee to make a selection before the expiration of the additional 15-day period, the Board of County Commissioners shall, within 5 days, fill the vacancy by appointing a person having the same qualifications at the time of his appointment as those provided by law for election to the office. If the person who has vacated the office has not been affiliated with a political party, the vacancy shall be filled by the Board of County Commissioners by appointment of a person having the same qualifications at the time of his appointment as those provided by law for election to the office. And so that's the relevant section, 59-506. And I'll just proceed at this point, which is item 3 on our agenda, the assessor legal qualifications per Idaho Code 34-621. And essentially what it says, dealing specifically with county assessor, no person shall be elected to the office of county assessor unless he has attained the age of 21 years of age at time of his election or her election, is a citizen of the United States, and shall have resided within the county 1 year next preceding his election. By the way, it's the same qualification for county commissioners, in case you're curious. Okay. Moving on then to, okay, so that we've handled that. And before we move on to the actual appointment, not the appointment, excuse me, the actual interview, I'm going to read the letter from the Republican Central Committee, chaired by Mr. Brent Regan, and I will share that with everyone in the room. In compliance with Idaho Code 59-906, which I just read, County Republican Central Committee met on May 13th, 2020, for the purpose of selecting 3 nominations to submit to the Board of County Commissioners to select from for filling the vacant position of Kootenai County Assessor. At our meeting, there were 42 precinct committeemen present, 17 absent, and there are 11 vacant seats. Voting was done by secret ballot. Tabulation was performed by Mr. Steve Matheson and Mr. Jeff Populus. Tabulation was witnessed by candidates and/or candidate representatives. There were no issues, complaints, or objections to the process or results of the tabulation. The committee hereby submits the following nominations in order of preference. Number 1, Mr. Bjorn Handeen, 914 East Homestead Avenue, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Number 2, Bela Kovacs, 3724 North Monarch Drive, Coeur d'Alene. Number 3, Mr. Roger Garlock, 1495 West Westminster Avenue, also Coeur d'Alene. And we were to acknowledge receipt of this email, which we did. And so moving on from there, we're going to move toward the individual comments, 5 minutes each. And what we will do is, after you finish your individual comments, Commissioner Leslie Duncan will ask the questions. There are 8 in all. They'll be asked of each of you. We will mix up the order so that you're not always, no one has any particular gain by listening to their opponent. And if any individual commissioner has follow-up questions at that point, we're certainly at liberty to ask them. So without any further ado, yes, ma'am. Yes, okay, thank you. So you'll have 5 minutes for your introduction. Thereafter, as the questions are asked, you'll be given 3 minutes for your answers. The yellow light will signal when you're down to 30 seconds. The red light means time's up, okay? So without further delay, first introduction.
Sorry, can I?
Commissioner Duncan, go right ahead.
So I just want to go on the record saying that I consider both Mr. Handeen and Mr. Garlock personal friends. I am especially close with Mr. Handeen's wife, Holly, which before the twins came, we corresponded and saw each other, fairly regularly. And so I just wanted to let that be known on the record that it will not affect my decision today, but I just wanted everybody to know that.
Well done. Unfortunately, that wasn't indicated on our agenda, but anytime we feel there's a potential conflict or even the appearance of one, we should disclose it, so thank you for that. Okay, then, and we'll address you, if you don't mind, by your first names. Bjorn, you've got the floor. 5 minutes, sir.
All right, first, I want you to know how seriously I've been taking this nomination and selection process. Not only because I hope to be chosen, but because by being the best candidate I can be, I can help to restore some of the public trust in the process, whether or not I'm chosen. So to that end, I've watched many of the Kootenai County meetings available online, including the 2019 Assessor's budget hearing several times. I've researched the history of the office, I've read the relevant statutes in Idaho Code, and I've perused the Idaho Tax Commission website and the County Assessor's website, Kootenai County Assessor's website, and the Idaho Association of Counties website. I've also met with a lot of people this past week, getting perspectives and information. I met over the phone with an acquaintance, the Twin Falls County Assessor, Brad Wills. I met with most of the other county officials. Most beneficial, though, was my meeting with the Kootenai County Chief Deputy Assessor, Joe Johns. And it was through him that I was able to correct a misconception that I had. In my cover letter last week, I wrote to you that, quote, I would see my role as maintaining the stability of the office for the next 2.5 years and to help develop an internal candidate from within the office that would carry on the legacy and tradition set by Tom Moore, Mike McDowell, and Rich Hauser by running for election in 2022. In other words, I thought I would best serve as being a competent seat warmer for a couple years and then help someone from within the department run for office. And I'm still not opposed to that, but I've learned that this may not necessarily be what the assessor staff wants. It may in fact be the case that they want a candidate in whom they can invest time and energy, training up to be useful, and who won't cut and run in 2 years. I think they might want a candidate that they can depend on to stick with them. And I can be that person if chosen. I would love to be that person. I'm fascinated by government. City Councilwoman Christy Woods said it best when she was asked why she wanted to run for office. She said, "I love government meetings." And I identified with that. I love them too. I love this stuff. I have some challenges to overcome, but I also bring a lot of strengths. My challenge, of course, is that I am known somewhat as being hyper-partisan. But believe me, I know that the public trust in the office of assessor is of the utmost importance to the county. In the position of assessor, if I'm chosen, I do understand that I represent the office to the public 24 hours a day. I assure you that my partisan activities will reflect that understanding. I'll endeavor to be seen as a public official in which all the people can be proud, left, right, and center. I have some real strengths, on the other hand. I come to you with real drive and determination. I have a reputation in the community and throughout the state for getting things done. I will work tirelessly to protect that reputation by giving the assessor's office my all. I come to you with management experience, management of employees who deal with the public, members of the public who may not be at their best. Now, a visit to the emergency room, it may not be exactly the same as a visit to the land records office or vehicle titling, but in general, I may understand what many of our county employees face. I come to you with a working knowledge of county and state government. Not only that, but I have an extensive network of contacts throughout state government that we all may find useful. I think, though, most of all, my cheerful, lighthearted, let's-get-to-work attitude may be my biggest strength. The nature of the assessor's office seems to be mostly one of a repeating cycle of meeting statutory deadlines, and that's been described as a merry-go-round. And commissioners, I'm ready to hop on. Thank you.
Thank you. Bela, please.
Commissioners, thank you for this opportunity to come before you today for consideration for appointment for the office of assessor. In this difficult time with the passing of our late assessor, Mr. Rich Hauser, I extend my sincere sympathy and prayers to his wife, Pam Hauser, on her loss. From what I have read about Mr. Hauser, he is well respected and he leaves a rather large shoes to fill. Please permit me to highlight my qualifications and my experience as it relates to the office. I meet definitely the age requirement under Idaho Code. I have been a resident of Kootenai County since 1999 for all consecutive years. With a view to the future, I would be interested in running for office, and I would fulfill the certification requirements as mandated by Idaho Code. I hold a Bachelor's of Science degree in economics from Arizona State University with a minor in mathematics. The work and experience that I bring to the office are directly transferable to the office of assessor. I bring over 19 years of public administration and governmental experience, particularly at the county level. Through my experience, I am familiar with the inner workings of county government. I have experience in operating in a highly regulatory environment, and I understand the constraints that are on county officials with regard to timeframes, regulatory, fiscal, budget, personnel, and other resources. I am experienced and familiar with the need to do more with less, and to work and think creatively, and to strive to identify the flexibility in statutes, and to chart an optimal path forward. I am experienced in preparing board briefings, interagency memorandums, resolutions, complex solicitations, competitive bidding documents, and contracts. I have worked with teams to develop such documents. I am familiar with researching state law, state administrative code, as well as county codes, policies, and procedures. I know how to use the state legislature website for that purpose, and I've begun doing so already. I have been reading Title 31, Chapter 20, Idaho Code, Title 31, Chapter 25, Idaho Code, Title 63, Idaho Code. I am familiar and have read through the Idaho Administrative Code, particularly 35.01.03, property tax rules. I am also in process of reading through the standards of the International Association of Assessors Offices. I have developed and led cross-functional teams, resulting in successful projects for projects that are completed on time and within budget. I have collaborated for consensus in making amendments to county code, policy, and procedures, and I have drafted modifications and resolutions for their adoption by the board. I am an advocate of lean operations, and I have promoted performance management initiatives. I have worked with programs to actively assess and discover the strengths of individuals, and have encouraged and empowered employees to become engaged and involved as members of projects and as leaders of teams. I have the experience of knowing that much of government is subject to public inspection due to the sunshine laws. and I have experience in working in this setting. For example, in a highly competitive bidding environment, it is not uncommon to see a lot of tension between the opposing sides. Often, the low bidder is very unhappy because they know that the results are public record, and they can see that they were the low bid, and they feel that they've left money on the table. The high bidder is often not happy, obviously, because they did not get the award. And often, the customer department is not happy because they've had to deal with the red tape and go through the time and process of public bidding. In such situations, I have brokered positive outcomes, working with opposing sides to mitigate risk and resolve bid protests. I'm proud to say that in the course of 19 years of my experience in public service, there was not one successful protest that was not successfully resolved. I compare that experience to the duty and the need of the assessor to occasionally meet with property owners when it comes to questions and complaints about their valuations and their assessments. I will take the approach to respect the property owners by listening to them about their complaints and their concerns. I will also show respect for the work efforts of the employees of the assessor's office and will take the path of explaining that the appraisal and the assessment process and that the assessor's office is bound by the underlying rules and regulations. I offer the supervisory and managerial experience of working with staff of professionals who are required to hold specialized knowledge and training for the type of work that they do. I will support their efforts in maintaining the certifications that they are required to hold and their ongoing training and professional development. I am committed to fostering employee engagement and in promoting work environment that offers the employees the tools and the resources that they need to be successful in their work, all of which is a win for the community. I value and support work-life balance, and I will work to ensure that employees are happy. I ask for your approval and your nominee, or your appointment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Roger, please.
Thanks, sir. First off, these are not the circumstances anyone wants to be here today. I'd like to express my condolences as well to Pam Hauser, and I'd like to thank her husband for serving Kootenai County. Last week was a strange turn of events for all of us, and I'm here to present to you my background and leadership skills. I got an email with an agenda including the theme for the next couple minutes of me talking, and one of the questions asked was, why do you want this job? An interesting question because I have not worked towards standing here today. I'm not here as a political choice or a culmination of a career in real estate or public administration, which is far too often the case in local governance. I'm standing here as an interesting choice. But however, no matter the reason I'm here, I am no less capable of performing the duties at a high level. As I was called by several residents to accept the nomination during last week's events and meeting on Tuesday night, I thought, and I weighed several options as to why I may be on the list. And I pushed them aside in favor of an opportunity to share my heart for service with all the individuals who are already doing this in the assessor's office, including those individuals who could easily be standing here in my place. I have spent the better part of the last 20 years in leadership roles, and the majority of which have been I was trusted by families with their most prized possession, their children, which is a testament to my patience, integrity, and passion. In these roles, I have excelled at not only leading a team, but creating a team. Now, I understand I did my research as well on the assessor's office because I'll admit I was a little taken back by the nomination and not the most adept at understanding what they do there. I know that there are several technical aspects to the assessor's office, and there's a wonderful team of people who have the understanding of these technical elements, and I've created an environment that runs exceptionally well, one of the best in the county. My role and leadership experience would create a smooth transition to stepping into that environment. I would not step in to push an agenda, do things my way, or turn things on its head. I would step in to develop relationships, serve the public, most importantly, and represent that office with poise, care, and integrity. Thank you.
Thank you. So before we move on to the actual questions, I do have to verify legal qualifications, and I read what those are. Minimum age 21, minimum time in the state 1 year, minimum time in the county 30 days. Do each of you qualify? Bjorn?
Yes, sir.
Bela?
Yes, sir.
Roger?
Sir.
Okay, so we're moving on to the questions. You'll be given, once again, 3 minutes to respond. Any commissioner is at liberty to ask a follow-on question, whether to the specific individual or all three, as the case might be. So Commissioner Leslie Duncan will proceed. Go right ahead.
I'll ask the first question of Roger, since Bjorn went first before, and then we'll just kind of keep moving along. Roger, please describe your experience in education as it pertains to this position.
By education, I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a graduate certification in mediation. With the mediation, that could be conflict resolution, and that really helps me bring understanding to working with a team and working with the public as well, which this role would, definitely be here to serve the public. And as Bjorn had stated, they're not always in a good mood. As I mentioned in my statement, being trusted with something as precious as someone's children, next on that list might be their property and their homes. This is a very important role that I take very seriously. My background in administration, I've spent the better part, as I said, 20 years working at local nonprofits and for-profit businesses, always in an administrative role. And I know how to run a team. I know how to build a team. I'm not here to be a supervisor or a boss. I'm here to be a leader. And hopefully my reference is checked out on that. But, I'm humbled to be here, and I think I could come in with a lot of energy and efficiency. I like to get right to the point and run things very streamlined and just bring that care and experience that I've built up over the last several decades to this role. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bela, please describe your experience in education as it pertains to this position.
Thank you. In addition to the comments that I made earlier highlighting my background in public service, I have been a licensed realtor for quite some time. In Colorado, I was licensed from 1990 to 1999. When I moved here in 1999 to become the purchasing director of Spokane County, I later acquired my Idaho real estate license in 2004, and my wife then acquired her license in 2005, and we worked partners with GMAC from about that time frame until about 2007, when I transferred over to Windermere. Through my experience in real estate, I'm familiar with the basic concepts of property valuation and the importance that the real estate profession plays in the community. As I mentioned before, I do have a Bachelor of Science in Economics with a minor in Mathematics. For the public procurement experience I have, I hold 3 certifications in public procurement. The CPPO, which is the Certified Public Procurement Officer, the CPM, which is the Certified Purchasing Manager with the Institute of Supply Management, and then the CMRP, which is Certified Material Resources Professional, the American Hospital Association. Much of what I've learned in earning and maintaining those certifications, because there's continuing educational requirements, is directly transferable to virtually any public office. In addition to that, I have continued to maintain my license, although I've not been active in real estate in recent years. I performed the continuing education courses to complete and maintain that license.
Okay.
Bjorn, please describe your experience in education as it pertains to this position.
Well, I have a Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration, and I too have been a licensed realtor. Am a licensed realtor since 2013. And then in my role as chairman of Idaho Virtual Academy, I'm a member of the Idaho School Boards Association, and they offer a lot of great continuing education as it relates to the government and running a government entity.
Okay. Next question.
All right, so Bela, we'll start with you. In your career, what is the largest budget you have managed? What was your role in the development of that budget?
So at Spokane County, I could say that I've managed budgets from 2 aspects, both as an operating department, the purchasing department. It was approximately a little bit over $1 million annually, and that consisted of the purchasing department operations, primarily personnel, and a small percentage of operating expenses, office supplies, and so forth. But that also included the operations of the centralized mail center at Spokane County, as well as for a time, the printing and reprographics department at Spokane County. I say for a time because sometime in around the year 2000, around 2000 or so, we got mandate from the commissioners to close it down. It was difficult to maintain profitability and competitiveness with the private market. So we ended up having to close that down. But the other aspect of managing budgets, as the purchasing director for Spokane County, I was responsible for the centralized and decentralized procurement of Spokane County. That comprised an annual procurement budget of approximately, depending on the budget cycles and what projects were in place for the budgets, anywhere from about $60 to $70 million a year to onwards up to $120 million a year in purchases. And so I was the administrative head for purchasing for Spokane County and oversaw the procurement and the projects for the county.
Thank you.
Okay. Bjorn, in your career, what is the largest budget you've managed, and what was your role in the development of that budget?
Okay, well, at Kootenai Medical Center, I was manager of 3 distinct departments, registration, pre-certification, and then the hospital switchboard, the operators. And altogether, that was $1.1 million, 37 employees altogether. And yeah, that was putting the budget together, presenting it, watching it, managing from start to finish that whole budget process. Whereas as chairman of Idaho Virtual Academy, that's a budget of $14 million. Now, of course, we have financial professionals, but you know, I take a very proactive role in watchdogging that budget.
And Roger, in your career, what is the largest budget you've managed, and what was your role in developing that budget?
The largest budget I've managed was through Milestones for Young Adults, which was a residential treatment home for young adults with disabilities. Now, the interesting thing about this is I can't put an exact number on the budget because it rotated year to year as a flexible budget. It depended on enrollment. My role in that was determining, you know, care for kids, staff, trainings, all those type of things. Now, since it rotated based on enrollment in the home, it helped me become adaptable and very efficient with those budgets because, you know, sometimes it rains, sometimes it pours, and so you'd have to lean on your savings as much as possible or try to be creative, you know, when times were a little tough and there weren't as many students to care on. At Open Arms, where I was the development manager, I wasn't in charge of a budget, but I did have the pressure of acquiring a budget at minimum of $600,000 a year as the manager of donations. You know, what they did with it, there was other people in charge of that, but they wouldn't be in charge of it unless I brought in the money. And so, you know, I know how to operate under pressure when it comes to finances, and I know how to be very efficient with those finances.
Thank you.
All right, and it looks like,
Any follow-on questions? Bill, did you want to ask anything? Okay.
Bjorn, what is the highest number of employees you've supervised at one time, and what types of positions have you managed?
37 employees. And in Minneapolis, I was the supervisor of 2 different emergency rooms at the same time. We had at the University of Minnesota Medical Center, we had 1 emergency room on each side of the river, Mississippi River. And those were 24-hour departments. So that can get kind of tricky to run them both at the same time. And that was about 25 employees. And then when I was at Kootenai Medical Center, we had emergency room admissions, we had outpatient admissions, so registrars. But then we had a separate staff for pre-registering and pre-certifying procedures, you know, for medical necessity before, with insurance companies, before the patients came in. Then you know, I also managed the hospital operators. So a wide variety of different roles, all under one heading of being the gatekeeper.
Okay. Roger, what's the highest number of employees you've supervised at one time, and what types of positions have you managed?
The highest number of employees I managed at one time was 10 employees. And the interesting aspect through that is I also hired those employees. I was kind of their manager and the HR service, and that's far too common in, you know, smaller management roles. And just because I hired those individuals doesn't mean that they always worked the way I wanted them to. And so then that's where the management role came into play. And the bulk of that was through Milestones for Young Adults, is where I did a lot of HR and hiring employees. But I've also worked at Kootenai County Probation and St. Vincent de Paul, and as well at Open Arms, nonprofit agencies where I was in charge of managing volunteers and acquiring volunteers. Now this brings a whole new element of management, because they're not there for financial purposes, they're not there as jobs or career builders. They're there to share the same passion that you have for the work, and so it's really important to be in that leadership role and share the same passion that they do, but then still hold them to a high standard. So through those positions, I know how to be direct and honest and build that relationship with individuals who may fall on my team, and whether it's 10 people or 50 people, you know, each individual employee you're gonna treat you know, very similarly and based on the circumstances.
Thank you. And Bela, what is the highest number of employees you've supervised at any one time, and what types of positions have you managed?
So the highest number, it ranged depending upon budget cycles and the flux of how many individuals I was permitted to have, but from a low of 12 individuals to a high of 16 at Spokane County. That was comprised of 7 to 9 individuals within the purchasing department, 1 to 2 individuals in the mail center, and 4 to 5 individuals in the printing and reprographic center. I'm sorry, the second aspect of your question, and what types of positions? So they were professional purchasing positions, sort of people with certifications, not that they were necessarily required, but they were highly valued, and it was administrative staff. It was generally individual contributor working positions in the print shop as well as in the mail center.
Yep. I do have a follow-on question for Bela. Within the purchasing division, were most of those individuals degreed?
I would say, yes, I would say pretty much 90% of them were degreed.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, I think we're back.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
can I answer that follow-up
Yeah,
question?
absolutely.
Yes, the majority of the people I hired and brought into our team were degreed individuals as well, including some therapists and social workers that we use to care for the kids.
Okay. Bjorn, did you want to jump in?
Not me. Yeah, most of the people that I managed did not have college degrees.
Okay. What prompted my question was your mentioning how the certifications were, if not required, certainly recommended, and that's what prompted the question. Okay, thank you.
All right, so Roger, do you know which departments the assessor oversees, and where does your experience apply to the departments of the assessor's office?
One of the questions I was probably dreading. Yes, I did do as much research as I could on the assessor's office, but I do not know all of what they oversee.
Any of them? I mean,
I can't, no, I can't answer that question.
okay,
Sorry.
that's okay. All right. Bela, do you know which departments the assessor oversees, and where does your experience apply to the departments of the assessor's office?
So my understanding from the reading that I've done, it's obviously the assessor's office and the appraisal office. It is the office that the assessor is the agent of the Idaho Department of Transportation and manages the licensing and the vehicles. My experience as it relates to that, in the purchasing department at Spokane County, I was responsible for the handling of the petty cash fund, which was essentially, it was in the days before they had actually implemented a P card, a procurement card. My department was responsible for maintaining and the balances of the petty cash fund. So should a department have a need to make a purchase, a cash purchase, they would come and we would have to account for and manage that. In my my prior days, my days prior to Spokane County, going years back, I'll go back to my high school days or my college days. I was actually working at a retail organization, and we were responsible for managing and maintaining the cash and just checking to make sure that the cash was all properly accounted for and in closing up the store. It was a retail organization, and I was served in night management, and I was responsible for managing and making sure that all the cash was accounted for at the end of the day.
Okay.
Thank you. Bjorn, do you know which departments the assessor oversees, and where does your experience apply to the departments of the assessor's office?
Sure, thank you. Well, there's vehicle titling, and that's, Holly is the supervisor there, and I think that I have a lot, I could be very helpful there, although I understand that they've got processes, they, not a lot of fine tuning needs to be done, but I can be useful because I think that translates very well to a hospital registration. Working with the public that comes in, but also at the same time dealing with phone calls, worrying about volume, worrying about when the peak times are, right before the end of the shift. I can be sympathetic to when something's not going right. It's the commissioners that gets the calls. So, yeah, I'm familiar with that kind of operation. Same thing with land titles. That'd be Betty. And I think what they also do there, they handle the exemptions, right? Veterans exemptions and a circuit breaker, that kind of thing. And so I don't know if it's a different department, but I saw that they had in the past seasonal employees going out to try to manage circuit breaker exemptions for people that couldn't come to the office. So I think I could be helpful there. Then there's just the administrative division within the assessor's office, that's REBA. I don't really know a lot about what they do yet, but then there's the appraisers, right? That's the big show. There's residential appraisal division, and there's special appraisals, and I think that's where timber is also, and agricultural appraising. So those are all very highly specialized people that, the challenge there is that we need employee retention, and I think I'm pretty good at that kind of thing to be helpful there. I'm forgetting one, surveys. We have the county surveyor within the assessor's office. I think that covers it.
Okay. Thank you.
Right, so Bela, describe your most challenging or difficult leadership experience, and what was the outcome?
The most challenging leadership experience, I would say, was transitioning from a non-governmental experience that I had prior to coming to the county, Spokane County, with a background in wholesale distribution and purchasing, and transitioning to essentially learning to be able to lead a department that was responsible for procuring virtually everything a government needs. The categories were very diverse. The regulations were very broad. When I interviewed for that position, I found out later that I interviewed competing with an individual who was in the department and who was very well qualified. Not only did they pass the bar, they did not have their law degree, but they were a colonel, in the military, they had their MBA. This individual had his MBA and just was an all-around, just an awesome individual. I am humbled by the fact that I was able to get that appointment for that position. And when I began working at the county, there was potentially the potential for conflict, I guess you could say, in the sense that I was able to get the position and this individual was not. But I worked through those details and appealed to this person's good nature and their honor. I could see that they were a very honorable person, and we were able to become very, very fast, strong friends and develop a good, strong relationship that lasts to this day. And when I assumed that role, I realized immediately the strengths of this individual, and as well as the whole team of the department, and realized how quickly I could learn from these individuals. And that's the position I took when I went into the office, was to simply step back, learn from them, and have them help me understand the process.
What would you say the average tenure was from the department, in the department when you came on board?
of the individuals in the department, the employees. It was long. The county is a place where people go to work and stay. They tend to not leave. I don't believe I had much turnover at all. And in fact, the Department of Purchasing was one of the departments that was highly regarded as the place that people wanted to go to work within the county.
Okay, thank you. Bjorn, describe your most challenging or difficult leadership experience and what was the outcome?
I'm thinking maybe some members of the audience might like my answer here, or at least identify with it. A computer conversion. That computer system conversion at Kootenai Medical Center, that was challenging. It's something we took seriously, and we did it very well. And I learned a lot from migrating our medical records and registration system, the whole system, from one product to another product. And I know that the county employees they've got some experience with that. And I think that might be something that is coming up in the assessor's office. So yes, it was challenging. I led a team because it wasn't just Kootenai Medical Center, but it was also the other county hospitals in the North Idaho Consortium of hospitals that made that migration with us. And so I led a multi-hospital team to make sure that we didn't lose any data, and everything went without a hiccup when we went live. And the project management skills that I learned doing that I learned from the company that they sent to help us do that, has served me so well, not just in my professional life, but also all my political things. It's something that project management, learning it well, can change your life.
Okay.
Thank you. And Roger, describe your most challenging or difficult leadership experience and what was the outcome?
One of the most difficult leadership experiences I've had would be in the realm of fundraising. When it comes to big fundraisers and event planning, you have a team of individuals, typically volunteers, and it's very important that, one, you're creating and meeting deadlines with those individuals, as well as you have numerous moving parts going on at the same time. And so you got to make sure that all the moving parts are clearly defined, what everyone's role is, and that the job is done, especially within a short period of time. The outcome was, and several times over, was very successful events, and where we raised several tens of thousands of dollars. But what people don't see is behind the scenes and the aspects of what goes into that, where you have a team of 10 to 12 individuals, and everyone has a different job, and there's a large amount of trust that they get that job done. And that was always difficult for me, but I thrived in that environment, and like I said, we put on some good fundraisers.
Thank you. All right, Bjorn, looks like you're up. What are your future goals, personal or professional, or both?
Well, it's no secret that I am interested in government, how it works, and I am a community servant. That's why I work so hard at Idaho Virtual Academy. That's the largest charter school in Idaho. I haven't said that yet, and I'm very proud of it. And so, really, my goals are to find a place where I can be useful to the community. And I think that the assessor's office is a place where I can be useful. And yeah, I'd be happy to stay there for as long as they have me.
Thank you. Okay, Roger, what are your future goals, personal or professional, or both?
The 5-year plan question every interview has. Well, I'm 44 years old. I got a nice family, 2 beautiful kids. My personal goals right now is getting them through the education system, however that looks, especially over the last 6 weeks. I don't know if anyone has had to go from public education to homeschooling, but it can be frustrating. And so some personal goals are just, a lot of times they revolve around the kids. I've been with my partner for the last 16 years, and so I feel like I've met a lot of my personal goals. As far as professional goals, I wouldn't say that they rotate. I've always had a passion for giving and working with the public mainly, and I spent a lot of time working with kids, whether it's through a Boys and Girls Club or with disabled young adults. And I recently have strayed from that role, but that I've taken my heart to service and to give to the members of Kootenai County. I really care for this city and this county. I've lived here for the last 17 years, and that has become my professional passion. I currently own a little store up in Handeen. It's a little artist co-op called The Front Porch. There's my plug. So I have a lot of professional passion for that, but that's more of my customer service base. That's not where my career lies. And my career lies serving the public as an elected official or within the Kootenai County Assessor's Office. I am more than happy to take on that role. I have also recently stepped back into working with adults with disabilities as in a management position, working with parents and enrolling them into a program. And so those are my professional aspirations. As long as I have a position where I can share my heart and my care and my integrity, I will take on that role.
Thank you.
Bela, what are your future goals, personal or professional, or both?
Most immediate goal would be to return to public service. I'm here in this community. I'm here to stay. After working for Spokane County for about 20 years, although the drive was not a problem for me, I would be very much interested in being able to work in public service in my own community where I live. That's very attractive and very appealing to me. I love learning. I'm committed to continuous improvement. If you've ever seen my car, it's the bookmobile. I carry books with me wherever I go. I love reading. I would be very interested in implementing or taking a look to see if we're able to implement processes of continuous improvement here. Lean manufacturing or that sort of thing, Six Sigma, is something that very much fascinates me. But long-term in terms of education-wise, I would be interested at a certain point in time to return back to school to get a master's degree.
Interesting. What do you like to read? What's your favorite topic?
I am not a fiction reader. I like all the dry stuff.
Oh.
And so I'll read economics and business and process improvement books. So
Okay.
it's dry.
Dry stuff, okay. Roger, did you want to jump in?
Sure, I'll jump in. I am rereading a book that, since the age of 14, has been one of my all-time favorite books, and unfortunately, there is too many parallels to what is happening in our world today, and that's Fahrenheit 451. But on a typical basis, I like to read historical books.
Okay.
I just love learning from the past and all the trailblazers, and I'll read anything as long as it is true, about individuals in the past.
Bjorn?
I'm a big enthusiast of Byzantine history, so
Okay.
I could read those books forever. Lately, I've been reading a book about Robert Moses called The Power Broker.
Okay.
As a New Yorker, you might be familiar.
Byzantine, okay. Wow, okay, thank you very much. Very different and very interesting. Bela, did you want to jump back in?
I would like to add that, I do
Yeah,
like
go ahead.
history as well, particularly history of the American Revolution. The Federalist Papers is something I read. And currently I'm reading a book called Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Okay. Anything to add, Roger, Bjorn? Okay.
All right, if my rotation's correct, I think, Roger, you're up for the next question. How will you transition into the role of assessor? What steps will you take to understand and lead the assessor's office?
My first transition would be to get to know the team. That doesn't mean you wouldn't establish yourself as a role of, administration and a leader, but it's really important to know the team, know their roles, where they fit in that thing. You just can't come in and be like, oh yeah, I'm the new assessor and this is how it is. Any good leader is right there with the team. That's why I always use the term leader and not manager or boss or whatever it may look like. But I like to lead by example. And so obviously there's a lot to learn with this role. And as any new incoming person, you're never going to know entirely what it's about until you get there. And I'm sure there's plenty of people in the office in every position that I can learn from. And so that would be my first step was, to take the time to know who everyone is and what they do and treat them all with the utmost care and importance because, when you have a team of so many different moving parts, you can't lose one of them. It's a well-oiled machine. As I stated earlier, the late Mr. Hauser did a great job of running that office, and there's some big shoes to fill. They've been running it in the last couple of weeks without a county assessor, and so it's a humbling experience. But that's where I would step in. My first step would be to learn everything I could, and you probably never stop learning in these type of positions. But it's really important to connect to those individuals that you'd be working with.
Thank you.
Bela, how will you transition into the role of assessor? What steps will you take to understand and lead the assessor's office?
I think, first of all, to be a good leader, one needs to be a good listener. And so I would practice what I was able to do when I transitioned to Spokane County. I will go into the office. I will respect all the individuals there. I will respect what they know. I will allow them to mentor me. It's my time to learn, to find out and discover the landscape of the way things operate and the way things function. I will respect like I said, I will respect their knowledge. I will immerse myself in the statutes and become proficient at the rules and regs and the requirements and the deadlines. And then I think it's going to be very important for me to then also at the same time go out and meet with the county leaders, meet with the county officials, find out what, if any, concerns they have. Simultaneously meet with the staff and, again, find out what works, what doesn't work, what needs to change, what needs to be improved upon. But do that as well with the commissioners and with the other elected officials and county leaders, and then chart out a path for improvement if improvement does need to be made, but also the course of action and the direction for the department.
Okay.
Bjorn, how will you transition into the role of assessor? What steps will you take to understand and lead the assessor's office?
Well, those were two great answers. Basically, what that means is I think we're all interested in maintaining the culture of the assessor's office. When I talked to Chief Deputy Joe Johns, he mentioned that when he was hired, Tom Moore had told him, I think it was Tom Moore, told him that it takes about 3 years to get the investment back from even an entry-level employee before they see a return on all the training investment that they put into a new hire. And so I recognize that they probably have a process on how to onboard new people, and I'll respect that for sure. I want to see where I fit into that culture that Commissioner Fillios, Chairman Fillios, said was the highest amount of esprit de corps. I also liked the answer of getting out into the public, maybe not just public officials, but the populace, the residents of Kootenai County. I've got some work to do when it comes to meeting with all kinds of groups. One more thing. The budget hearing, right? That's coming up like fast. So maybe that would be, if you want an actual concrete answer, I think there's statutory deadlines that need to be adhered to, and so I'll be as useful as I can there as well.
Okay. All right, Bela, I think we're starting with you for the last question. How will you engage and support the staff of the assessor's office?
Well, the way I would engage and support the staff is to have one-on-ones. I believe in maintaining a finger on the pulse of the operations of the department to figure out what's going on and what's happening. I believe in huddles, maybe if not, if you can do them daily in a large department, depending upon the number of personnel and the resources and the divisions. But I would set up a schedule for myself to rotate through on a weekly basis, if possible, to meet with all the departments to find out, what are they working on, what issues are they dealing with, are they experiencing any bottlenecks, do they have anything that they need help with, in what way can I help clear the path and help make progress. Do they have all the resources that they need, and what can I do to assist them in getting the resources that they need so they can be successful and effective in the performance of their jobs?
Thank you. Okay, Bjorn, how will you engage and support the staff of the assessor's office?
Well, a lot of times when I've walked into a new department, it's been a dysfunctional department, right? That's why they need a new manager. That's not the case here. And so, in some ways, the answer is find out what Rich and Mike did and do that. The employees are engaged, and it seems like they feel supported. So I want to continue that as best I could.
Okay.
Okay.
Roger, how will you engage and support the staff in the assessor's office?
I'm always one for a direct line of communication. I would ensure that there was an open line from myself to anybody within the agency. And it's very important to know that you're right there alongside of them. You're not in front of them or behind them, but you're side by side with them. And so it's important to see where you may be an assistance to them, not just where they may be an assistance to you. And as stepping into such an efficient agency, it's very important to maintain a high level of energy and encourage, a continuance of that energy to avoid any type of complacency amongst the staff as they go through a transition. Transitions are hard on anybody, no matter what role you're stepping into or if you're already in that role. Transitions in life can always be difficult with people, and I've assisted people through through numerous transitions over the years, and so I look at this as a way to support those individuals, through this transition, not only for their careers and what they've already been doing, what they've learned under past assessors, but where they may fit in the future, as well as my role in the future there.
Thank you. That's all the questions.
That concludes this, okay. Commissioner Bill Brooks, you had a question for
Yes,
all three gentlemen.
I've got one question now, and what order would we be going in here this time?
Whichever you
Well, I mean, following the pattern.
I think it'd be Bjorn,
Bjorn, and then,
and then it'd go Roger, and
Roger.
then Bela.
okay, so that's the order we'll go in. In that the assessor's office is dealing primarily with property and its valuation, what are the three main methods used to determine a property's valuation?
Give me a second. It's I've come across this in my research.
You've heard this.
Yeah, I've heard this one. One is land and the replacement value, land, the value of the building, land and the structure, and then the other is an assessment of market value, and I'm not sure I could come up with a third.
Okay. Next.
So the value of the home, the value of the lot, any type of improvements made, similar. I can't lay it down to three, but in my and then the current market value based on the neighborhood. Location is a big part of the assessment process, and then any type of condition, the condition of the home through the appraisal process. But as far as the tax value, my understanding, it's the home value and the lot value minus any exemptions, and then you create the tax value.
Replacement costs, comparable market costs, and new construction.
Okay, the answers I were looking for was comps, income, and cost. Those are right out of the Real Estate 101 book.
Okay. Anything else?
Oop.
Leslie, anything else?
Nope.
Okay, I don't think I have any questions that haven't already been asked. So why don't you each take just a few minutes, 3 minutes at most, for summary? And I'll just start with Roger and work to Bela and Bjorn. Roger, please.
A summary statement. I did not prepare one, so I will just talk.
It's okay.
Well, I mean,
No one
starters,
has.
thank you for, allowing me to be here, and what a privilege it is. I know Bjorn personally, and just in the last 2 hours of listening to Mr. Kovacs, I'm very impressed by the fellow individuals that I'm sharing this table with. And thank you for the three of you for, hearing us out in this process, and, I'm humbled to be here, and anytime you're asked, are called to serve, your fellow residents, it's a humbling experience. And, I hope I can continue that with the Kootenai County Assessor's Office. And, I think my qualifications, where they may be a little different and where I don't have a background in real estate, I think that fresh perspective could be what, the office needs. And, I'm going to go in there with fresh eyes and a new perspective. And, like I said in my opening statement, as I approach anything in life, I approach it with energy and care and integrity. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, thank you very much for inviting me to be here today, and I appreciate the opportunity to come before you to talk to you a little bit about my experience and my background. One of the things I'd like to emphasize also that it's important when taking on a new role such as this is to put the human side to it, and I'd like to emphasize that as well, that it's important to come into an office to recognize the individuals that you have that you're working with, to develop a team, to be able to bond and have that relationship to have one another's back and support one another. And should I be fortunate enough to get your or your appointment into this office, I will work to that end, and I will work to collaborate with the individuals and the teams in the department, as well as the community and the county leaders, to accomplish the important mission of the county.
Bjorn.
Well, I too thank you for your role in this whole process. It's been not the process that anybody really wants to go through. And I also appreciate all the people that's watching the process, and I'm pleased that I do feel that all three of us have given a good account of ourselves, and I know that you'll make the right decision no matter which one of the three of us that you pick.
Thank you.
Yes, go right ahead.
One more. So,
Yeah, please, go ahead.
I just thought of this. So each of you have outside interests right now, and, obviously you're earning an income to pay for your family. So where do you see that going? Like, real estate, are you still going to practice real estate on the side? Are you still going to be, working at the store? So we'll start with, Roger went first, right? So Bela?
The assessor's role will be my gig. It'll be my main gig. I have held my license, my plans and my intention, to the extent that I would consult with the civil division of the prosecuting attorney's office to find out and confirm that there is no conflict of interest. Should there be a conflict of interest, I will move swiftly to eliminate that conflict, and if I need be, retire my license, I would do that.
Thank you.
To the extent that there would be no conflict, I would probably just keep that license and maybe from time to time, maybe back up my wife if she should ever need it. But I would not engage in the practice of real estate during county hours.
Okay. Bjorn?
Well, you might know that I've got several interests and things that I pursue, and they will all be curtailed. Real estate, yeah, I talked to my broker, Ann Anderson, and I would turf off my listings and suspend my license. I haven't decided as far as Idaho Virtual Academy, if I would step down as chairman, but I'm not sure if I should relinquish my role as a board member. You know, there's plenty of public officials that do that, you know, that are on other boards. So I haven't decided that yet. And then, yes, my political activities will be sharply curtailed. Now, both Rich Hauser and Mike McDowell were precinct committee people. So I'm not necessarily sure that I'd have to resign that, but I would feel like I would have to kind of sit in the corner with that, you know, in that section of guys that stay pretty quiet.
Roger.
I have lots of experience of juggling multiple priorities, and, you know, my personal family priorities always come first, as people found out last week during the nomination process. But as far as career priorities, I know how to prioritize. I've held multiple jobs at various times, and this would be my number one priority. As far as my store goes, or my new role with a residential home that I just took on. The residential home is a remote position, so I can do that at any time. And as far as the store goes, I can man it with employees. I don't have to be there myself. And so this would be 100% my focus as far as my career goes.
Thank you.
Okay. That it? Bill, any other questions?
No.
Okay, none for me. So at this point, thank you all. Thank you for your summary. And what we'll do at this point is move on to deliberations and decision, which is an action item, as indicated in the agenda. Deliberations are done publicly, as our counsel has advised us. It might seem awkward to some, but we have to abide by statute, and statute says we have to deliberate publicly, and so we will. And so at this point, and when we conclude that, we will vote, and who wins the vote becomes our next assessor. And Clerk Jim Brannon, who is with us, will administer the oath of office, and off you go. Join the club. Okay. Thoughts? Who would like to go first?
I always go first.
Would you like to?
No?
I don't have anything to say.
Oh, stop.
No,
Come on.
I don't. I've pretty much made my decision.
You want to share that?
I'll make a motion, if that's what you want.
You don't want to have, would you like to deliberate? We can put a motion on the table and still deliberate.
Sure.
Go ahead, proceed.
Okay, I'd move that we select Mr. Kovacs as the next assessor.
Okay. So we have a motion on the table for Mr. Kovac. Any discussion?
Well, I would just like to talk about how I came to the decision I have come to. As I stated before, Bjorn and Roger, I know personally. And Roger, your detail and your goal-oriented nature is very praiseworthy. You're open to input, self-motivated, you lead by example. You're very respected and appreciated. And I think that you would do really well at this, as well as Bjorn. Great demeanor, sense of humor. You gain cooperation, and you can understand complex things. You're enthusiastic. You've done a lot of homework for this in such a short amount of time. I'm very, very impressed with that. And then, and Bela, you know, your integrity, over and over, that's what I hear from you. And the fact that you lead by example too, and you've already had this type of opportunity where you stepped into long tenured role, and that plays a huge part in it as well. I think each of you could do the job. I think each of you could help the county through this transition. The one thing, though, that I do know, because I worked for government agencies, then I worked for private sector, and now I'm back in government, that's a really steep learning curve, and I think that's the only thing I think that edges Mr. Kovacs out in this situation. You guys have great experience with people, which is very, very important, because this is a good department that we really need to foster and keep moving forward. But I come back to the fact that knowing the statutes, understanding how slow government works, how it's just really difficult to do that. And I think that Mr. Kovacs just has that little bit of edge over you guys, even though, like I said, you guys could each step in there and do it well.
Okay, I guess I go last.
Well said. Go ahead.
And it's interesting, I think Commissioner Leslie Duncan pretty much said it well. What I did is, in two cases, with Bela and Bjorn, I did not only read, in your case, Bela, and both cases actually contacted the references, which incidentally were very good on both ends. Bjorn, to your credit, your references indicated that you were working outside the box. Some of the procedures that you put in place at KMC are still active today, to your credit. That you were very easy to work with, good sense of humor, and I know that because I've known you for some time. And so your references were quite solid. When I spoke with Bela's references, and I did read them, and we asked for 3, and I think you gave us 4 or 5. I did actually call a few of them, somewhat by accident, because I didn't realize they were attached to the package. And when I asked the concluding comment, would you hire this gentleman again, the answer was absolutely. Your references were glowing, and I say that without reservation. You walked into a very difficult situation, and you were dealing with a union shop, I understand. And for the benefit of everyone involved, the situation that Bela Kovacs walked into at Spokane County in his role as a purchasing manager was that the county was under scrutiny by the state for, can I say, sloppy practices? Is that a fair statement? And that was straightened out, and it was straightened out without undue hardship or people exiting. Once again, back to Bjorn, I think he performed admirably, not only at KMC, but at your previous job in Minneapolis. Now, I didn't get a chance, Roger, to speak with yours.
I did.
Your references, but I guess.
did, and they were absolutely glowing, and that's why I wanted to mention, a lot of the things that I said were directly from the, not only what I know of him, but from his past, not only managers, but subordinates as well. And, yeah, I mean, very, very glowing.
Okay. So from that perspective, I guess you all score well. So it really comes down to, who's going to learn the fastest, who's going to come in, create the least amount of disruption. I don't think any of you will create any disruption, frankly. I think you've all acknowledged that you have a very professional staff, and under the leadership of Joe Johns, any technical expertise that you would need to absorb is right there. And Joe has beneath him both residential and commercial appraisers, so everything is there. It's a tough decision for us because each of you comes with credentials, but I do have to side with both Commissioner Duncan and Commissioner Bill Brooks. I find that Bela Kovacs brings not just the educational, but the actual experience that is potentially most relevant to what we have here. Once again, I do want to thank each and every one of you. I am looking for a second for the nomination of Mr. Bela Kovacs to succeed Rich Hauser as our next Kootenai County Assessor.
So I just want to make sure that you guys understand, we absolutely believe that you guys could have stepped in and done the job. I know that. There wasn't a time where I didn't believe that at all. But it's that, for me, it's that component that throws you for a loop, and, and most elected officials have gone through it. It's like, what do you mean I can't do that? And it's, so I just want to make you guys aware of that, but I second.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, and the motion is carried. Once sworn in, Mr. Bela Kovacs will be our next Kootenai County Assessor. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome to Kootenai County.
Thank you.
And congratulations
Clerk
to,
Jim Brannon.
yeah, congratulations to Bjorn and Roger as well.
Thank you,
did
Bjorn.
well.
Thank you, Roger. Well done. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Clerk Brannon will now administer the oath of office. Kootenai County Assessor
of Kootenai County Assessor
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
And now you have to sign, please, and I'll sign underneath it. Thank you, Chairman, Commissioner. Thank you, Clerk Brannon, appreciate it. And so the time is now 2:16. This meeting is officially adjourned. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Bela Kovacs as our next Kootenai County Assessor, and congratulating both Roger Garlock and Bjorn Handeen in putting up an exemplary performance as well. Thank you, gentlemen. We truly appreciate it.
All right.